Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Boy, am I in for a treat today, because I'm driving a car that I want to drive ever since I was a lad. I was brought up in Norfolk, which is Lotus County, and I was a massive fan of Lotus cars, living not too far from Hethel. And but I've never ridden, or driven rather, a Lotus in my life. Now I can't claim that this actually is a Lotus, but it's born from the Lotus ethos. This is of course a Caterham 7. This is the Caterham 7 170S, and the reason why this is so true to the Lotus ethos is because this is the lightest Caterham 7 ever. And well, as if you know your Lotus history, Colin Chapman always used to say, add lightness. So this is super light. It's not very powerful, but anyway, it's great fun. So stick around, stay tuned, and let's have a first look at the Caterham 170S. Alright folks, so don't worry, I'm not going to turn into a car channel, but my friends up at Crazy Horse said I was welcome to have a drive of this car. I was up riding a bike, riding an Indian Sport Chief actually, and there's a review of that coming up on the channel if it's not already up. And they offered me the chance to drive this car. Well, you're not going to turn it down, are you? So yeah, don't worry, normal bike service resumed next time. But this car is one of those cars that has a lot in common with bikes. Number one, it's got a Suzuki engine in it. It's actually got a triple cylinder engine in it, 660cc, which doesn't sound like much, and indeed it isn't much. But this car weighs just 440 kilograms. Sounds epic, by the way. You probably won't hear it through the helmet microphone, but it does sound good. So it's got a very lightweight, small engine, and the car itself, as I say, very, very light, because it's not only have they done the Colin Chapman thing of adding lightness, removing anything unnecessary in here. It doesn't even have stalks on the steering wheel. If you want to put the indicators on, you have to press this button, look, and it makes an annoying bleeping noise, so you don't forget about it. No power steering, no traction control, no ABS, no nothing like that. This is proper raw driving, as it should be if you're an enthusiast, as far as I'm concerned. It's very much like driving a go-kart. So when I say it's very much like driving a go-kart, it's quite obvious why that is. Number one, this thing has diminutive proportions. It's tiny. It's not only the lightest of the Caterhams, but it's the smallest that they've ever made as well. They've kind of shrunk down its width, so it's got tiny tyres on it with tiny contact patches. The actual width of it is narrower than a normal Caterham. And then of course the handling is superb, because it is a bit like a go-kart in that you've got these, you know, wheels at four corners. That sounds kind of obvious, but that is what makes for great handling. You're sat right back in this tub, so your weight is right back, looking over that long bonnet. Is just an occasion driving in this. These things come in all sorts of different colours, by the way. This one is this bare metal finish, and I don't think that's even an extra cost option, but you can have all sorts of colours and finishes, stripes, nose bands and all kinds of things to make it your own. But what an absolutely beautiful looking thing, eh? Now, one of the things you quickly learn with this car is the pedals are very close together. So it's actually quite hard, I've got relatively wide trainers on, to go from the accelerator to the brake. You have to put your left foot very close to the transmission tunnel, and then you have to sort of lift it out of the way off the clutch when you want to use the brake, or indeed to press the clutch at the same time is probably safest. So right off the bat, this is not an easy car to drive, I have to say, but it is great fun. The only other car I've driven that's been anything like this was the Morgan three-wheeler, which I also borrowed from Crazy Horse. If you've not seen that review, go and check that out. I'll put a link in the corner. That was great fun too. And this is of a similar ilk, but slightly different, because that car had an engine that was 3 times as powerful. Even though this one has only got something like, I don't know, 75 brake horsepower, something like that, it still works out at about 170 brake horsepower per tonne. So again, it doesn't pretend to be a super fast car, but it's all about the driving and the handling, and it's no slouch, it has to be said. It's turbocharged, so when you give it the beans and you change gear, which I might be able to demonstrate in a minute, there's some great noises come from the wastegate. I think I mentioned that this is something like 70 brake horsepower. I undersold it. It's actually 84 brake horsepower with a power to weight ratio of 170 brake horsepower per tonne, 6.9 seconds to 105 miles an hour. So not blistering speeds, but this car is not about the speeds, as I say. It's all about the fun factor. I've got to be careful around here. There's a lot of 30 mile an hour limits. Gearbox on here, even though it's that Suzuki engine, it's a Suzuki engine from a Suzuki car, sort of a Japanese micro car. So the gearbox is also Suzuki, Very close ratios here on this tiny gear stick. Don't have to move it far to make a difference. But that's good, because it means it's not a sequential gearbox like you'd have if it was a motorcycle engine. I love the way you're looking over the bonnet on this. Looking at those wheels move to your every input on the steering. As I mentioned, no power steering, so it's really great feel through the steering, and so precise. You don't have to move the steering very much to have a big effect on the front wheels. You almost think your way around the corner, and round she goes. I just love that long bonnet you're looking down. So yeah, no clutter or electronics on the steering wheel. Removable Momo helps you get in and out, but mainly it's a sort of security thing. If you take the steering wheel off, if you leave the car anywhere, it's highly unlikely that anyone's going to have one handy to pop on and drive the car away. So creature comforts in here, not a lot, certainly no air conditioning. There is a fan here, and there is a screen heater, and it's got some hazard lights and a fog light, and that's about it. There are some practical aspects to this car actually. So for example, if you were to go touring, the car does actually have a boot. So let me show you that. I say boot, here we go, this is it. It's got some Velcro bits here and press studs. I've already undone the press studs, but if we do that, there we go. And so you've got quite a bit of storage in there. I've got my biker jacket, my vlogging stuff, my cameras and things in there, and it's so yeah, quite a bit of space there. That is like I don't know, 4 times a Goldwing top box, so plenty of space in there if you want to go touring. As far as your passengers concerned, for comfort, you have got, you know, this cockpit is actually pretty nicely appointed. This is as standard. My crash helmet's in the way there at the moment, but nice leather seats, I think that's standard, and it's all really nicely done in terms of quality, fit and finish. It really does feel like a quality car when you're in here. Yeah, really nice place to be actually, albeit tight. You're of course sitting really low down in the car. This one actually has the optional lowered floor, so the seat sits a couple of inches lower than it would on the standard car, and apparently that makes an awful lot of difference. I've not driven the standard car, so I can't comment, but it does feel like I'm in this car, nicely cocooned in the cockpit. It may not be, but I have to say it feels very, very safe. It's so good, the handling around these corners. You can feel every bit of grip in those tiny, thin tyres. And there's not a lot of it, but that makes for fun driving. But because this steering is so communicative, you can tell exactly what it's doing. You can't see it through my helmet, but I've got a massive grin on my face. These doors are, I think these are optional panels as well that you can get. So there you go, that goes like that, and the mirror's just attached onto that bit of leather there. And then I was trying to get down here to show you, if I can, the pedals, but I don't think I can get in. This is the removable steering wheel. Just pull that and off she comes. So that's your anti-theft measures. And then down there, I don't know if you can see in the dark, sorry, camera's moving around there, we can probably see the pedals. They're really, really close, but feel great fun. But yeah, ideally you want narrow feet to drive this car. Right, let's pop this back on again. Now, I don't pretend to be any sort of skilled driver, but I imagine this would be a great car to do heel and towing in. I'm effectively doing that anyway because of the closeness of that accelerator and brake pedal. Yeah, it's quite a thing to drive this. You can't afford to relax too much. It's an absolute hoot. There's an awful lot about this car to love. Just little touches like, if you know, the fact that you can see the suspension working. I see there actually Bilstein dampers in there. The fact that you've got this amazing exhaust running down the side here. It sounds absolutely epic. It's right by your passenger's ear hole as well for excellent sound aural experience. And yeah, I just think it's just got fun written all over, isn't it? I have to say, from a comfort point of view, it's really nice sat in here. I feel cocooned. I mean, I'm lucky in that I'm not a particularly big bloke. I'd describe myself as a small to medium sized fella. I'm 5'8" and about 11 stone. So this car is absolutely perfect for me. I could do with slightly less wide feet. I went to nod at that motorcyclist then, how hilarious. I could do with slightly less wide feet for the pedals, but just a matter of getting used to it. But what a lot of fun for the money. This particular car I'm driving, looked at the price card from the showroom, £29,000, so that's less than a new Goldwing. Makes you think, doesn't it? Once you get used to this gear change, it's really nice, and I love the little chirp you get from the turbo every time you change gear. It's a shame I've got these cars in front of me, so I can't give it the beans. We've just lost one. Now, in case you're wondering why the heck I'm wearing a crash helmet, it's not actually for safety reasons. You don't have to wear a crash helmet in this. You have got the roll cage behind me. I'm purely wearing it because I wanted to get these views of me driving the car in this sort of first person perspective. I do watch the odd car review on YouTube. I'm also, as much as I love motorcycles and aeroplanes, I also love cars. And usually all the car reviews are done with the camera mounted on the screen there, and the person talking at the camera, and that's fine. But I'm hoping that this camera on the helmet is going to just give you that little bit of an idea of what it's actually like to drive this thing. I'd say the mirrors are next to useless. They're attached to these, in quotes, doors, which are all flappy and made of leather, so of course the mirror flaps about. But they're pretty good at keeping the wind out. As you increase the speed, obviously it gets noisier in here. Blimey, soon sneaks up to 70 miles an hour. Slow down again. I haven't got any earplugs in. I think you could hold a conversation absolutely fine in here. It'd be great fun to go touring in this car, which you could do with another person. There is room here if the other person's quite small, and you've got a bit of boot space in the back. Well, I say boot space. It's pretty good if you're used to a top box on a motorcycle, otherwise you're going to be disappointed. And it's not a white van, but a grey van that scuppers me fun. I love the way you're looking at those lights at the front there. Just reminds you you're in something a bit special. I'm always complaining, aren't I, that motorcycles are getting too many electronics these days, and less is more as far as I'm concerned. Well, this car could not be any more basic, and it absolutely is all the better for it. It enhances the driving experience. All you do in this car is think about the driving you're doing. No radio, you can't, you know, it's not even an option, forget that. No electronics to distract you. Just this, what I think is a really nice dashboard. So just a couple more features of the car that I wanted to point out. You may be wondering why haven't I showed you the engine. That is because obviously it lives under this bonnet, and this bonnet is one piece that you lift off via these fasteners here. Proper, I think, de-Zeus fasteners, whatever you call it. They're the same either side. But I did have a look at the engine earlier in the showroom, but really it's a two-man job to put the bonnet back on again, so I didn't want to try that while I was out on my own. And to be honest, the engine isn't that much to look at, but that obviously lives in there. The wheels on here are really neat as well. Nice little jobs, really simple. Look, we've got solid disc brakes on the front, and down the back I noticed we've even got drum brakes as well. And yeah, you really do have to give the brakes some welly to make them noticeable. Nice note to this engine, it's not obnoxiously loud, but because the exhausts are down the side of the car, you can hear them. Right, I've got a roundabout coming up. Got to be on me metal now with this indicator. Let's go for it. That is a very annoying bleeping noise. There for good reason, of course. Only a 5-speed gearbox on this, by the way, and I think I just chose one that was a bit too low. Right, we can get round here quickly. Come on, lights, stay green. They are. I'm hovering ready for that brake if I need it. There we go, the red ones, and we're away. I don't know if that turbo wastegate, you can hear it on the mic. I suspect not. It's not that loud, but it's a great little chirp you get. Right, I want to go down here. Not relying too much on the mirrors. A look over the shoulder seems a more safe option. Fabulous. I'll tell you what, this just shows you do not need massive horsepower for massive fun. This whole drive I've just had a big grin on my face. Absolutely superb. This would be such fun on the track. They make two variants of the 170 actually. They do a road focused version and a track focused version. The track focused version is about £1,000 more, I think, and you get some stiffer suspension, limited slip differential, carbon fibre dash, I think, some bits and pieces like that to make it a bit more racy. But this is the perfect setup for the road, I think. So let's go through my likes and dislikes of the Caterham 7170S then. And well, the dislikes are very short indeed. Just the closeness of the pedals. I guess you get used to them, but it gives me nerves every time I think about having to brake or change gear on here. Narrow feet are the order of the day. I'd definitely like a bit of wider spacing there, but that is the only thing I don't like about it. Everything else about this car is fantastic. It's not lacking or missing anything. The driving experience is visceral, it's real, it sounds good, it handles beautifully with this precise steering. The gearbox is lovely. Everything you're looking at is great, from the lights to the nose to the wheels moving to this dashboard. It just says old school sports car at you. And for driving on roads like this, sweeping B roads, it is just perfect. And the other thing I love is the price. Get a brand new one for less than a new Goldwing. What a treat and what a lovely car. I thoroughly recommend it to the house. If you're a car person, you fancy something like this, get yourself down to Crazy Horse in Bury St Edmunds, my local Caterham dealer. Get yourself a drive in this very car. I think you're going to love it. Must say massive thanks to the guys at Crazy Horse for trusting me with their demo. It's been an absolute blast. Thoroughly enjoyed driving it. Wouldn't it be fun to have one of these for a week or two to get to properly know it? Little hint there for Caterham. Alright, that's it for now. If you've not done so already, do hit that subscribe button, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Until then, this has been the Listen and Fly. Cheerio.